And so since we've heard from John, we have a couple people here also who do some experiments with drones. And Greg, do you want to come forward and say, because I believe you gave a presentation a while back to the police department. Was that you or the?
So, yeah, I was working with just several people on working with the police department as emergency services, looking at how we can use drones to support. My wife's cousin was in Oso when the mountain fell on it, slid down and wiped out their whole neighborhood. We were hanging by the phone over the next few days and heard reports of rescue people hearing screams in the night from the mud. And then I was really troubled later to learn that there were drones on the ground ready to go off with thermal imaging cameras and whatnot, but were grounded because the powers that be.
The governor's executive order, yeah.
Well, and didn't know, I think the emergency services director or whoever just didn't know what impact that would have. Certainly might have saved some lives, but politics are really influential. So, so I wrote down a few notes. I hope you don't mind if I read this since I'm a little bit nervous. So, but as you stated, my name is Greg Kelly. I'm a resident of Military Hill here in Pullman. My wife, who stepped out with Emma, our child, have lived here for 8 years. I am really honored to be a part of this meeting, and I'm excited to chronicle my newborn baby's first exposure to these proceedings. Just a little background. I've been an RC hobbyist since I was a kid. My interest in electronics and mechanics launched my career as an engineer here in Pullman. I've been flying multirotors for several years, mostly fly in my yard or the park behind my house. As curious neighbors ask me about my flying machines, I have been happy to show them my stuff and have met and befriended many of my neighbors that I would not have otherwise. So I was flying the hexcopter that my good neighbor here saw at Jefferson last month. I've flown there for several years, and many people on Orion Street have come down, often with their kids, to check out my hobby. Mr. Thielbahr called the police, which is perfectly understandable, and I don't blame him at all, and harbor no grudges towards my good neighbor. When that happened, I actually left the school before Officer Lamley got there, but I saw in my rearview mirror her pulling into the parking lot, so I thought, I wonder. And I went back and met Officer Lamley. So I think I'm pretty typical of RC hobbyists. We're law-abiding, respectful, and friendly people. I heard about this yesterday, and I was surprised to hear that. I actually heard from a coworker that it was on the radio. I was more surprised when I dug a little bit and learned that most of the facts about this incident was misreported. I think it's best that we assume the details got confused accidentally. Since this particular incident is not the subject of the conversation, I would like to address the privacy concern with drones. This morning I went over the things have GPS logs on them, so I pulled it up, and it was I don't know where Mr. Thielbahr lives, but it was 100 feet from any building. There are laws already. There's regulations governing the safety of RC hobbyists. They're already out there, and so they govern the safe use. So I didn't address safety particularly because it's already been addressed. It's done. Those people who fly their machines over the game at the high school, or they fly them over the White House, those are people already breaking the law, just so that we're clear. So privacy concerns. It's been a long-held annoyance to the hobby community that military predator attack drones are put alongside hobby drones in the news. This is media, it's a media tactic because fear sells. Fear gets ratings. Spying with multi-rotors doesn't work. The media has cited a few weirdos trying to pull it off, but the media has irresponsibly hyped public fear of privacy violations to get ratings. As your local news station can attest, any headline with the word drone in it gets attention. That's why I don't blame my neighbor for calling the police, and I'm not surprised he thought he saw a camera pointing at him when in fact there was nothing remotely resembling a camera on board. The reality is this: hobby multi-rotor users couldn't care less about what's in your backyard. If somebody did, though, using a drone would be the worst way to find out. They're expensive, they're very conspicuous. The noise they produce is somewhere between a vacuum cleaner and a lawnmower. They're easily spotted and are not sneaky or covert at all. What we should be banning in Pullman is an even more recent technological development. I call it cell phone on a stick. Let me show you. This guy is a cell phone on a stick. Now, I'm being a bit facetious here, but this device is silent. Most people can make one in about 30 seconds. They can easily see over backyard fences. They're quite covert, virtually undetectable, and can record video and audio and transmit it via a live stream to YouTube for anyone in the world to see. Bill violated yet? The fact is that here in Pullman, we're not other cities. We're Pullman. The next time I'm flying in the park or in the field behind Orion Street, I invite you to come check out what I'm doing. You can see and know for yourself the reality of the situation. Like many of your neighbors, it will settle your anxiety over the emerging hobby. Everyone I've talked to finds it fascinating and cool. I suspect Mr. Thielbahr is not the only one who has been influenced by the media scare tactics. To this end, I suggest a more productive effort. How about a drone open house, or maybe perhaps like coordinating with the robotics club at WSU, at the university, or some kind of Q&A forum that the city can facilitate, or like a demo booth at the Lentil Festival. I believe that as a community, whatever reaction we have to this growing hobby should come after some education on the topic. So I do appreciate Mr. Thielbahr for starting this conversation. I do agree that that it would be a topic of conversation at some point. And I'm very sorry that I caused him and his wife anxiety, and hope that someone would, talk to me if that was the case. But anyway, thank you. And if there's, I especially like to thank the council members for their service. I respect and appreciate that, and invite any questions at this time.
Any questions? Yeah.